Alright, so now we have to install the rear end. Now the rear end, you're going to grab your center differential, which you may have a differential, you may not. You may have a locked differential, which is just a spool, similar to this. The Traxxas 4x4, there is an oil-filled option that usually comes with them in the box. Here you would just slide this in, and that is it. You should have a little bit of play here. That is normal, and you do want that because if the tub flexes, you want this to be able to slide in and out so that this doesn't bend as easily. That is it for this portion. Once you have this, if you notice this here, let me go ahead and remove it so it's easier to show you. Notice this here, so it has those flat sides. It's always a good idea to line it up before you try mating the rear, just to make it easier. So for the purpose of this, I'm going to leave it horizontal, so it's just going to be flat. And then I'm going to grab this here, and inside you're going to see that that should be flat as well. So once I move this in and install it, it should slide easier. If it does not, it's not a big deal. See, that was really smooth. You can always just turn these and then try to slide it, turn them a little, try to slide it. Or just turn the gear, slide it. So you can just kind of hold it and then push. That works as well. All right. So now that this is on here, I can go ahead and just go ahead and button everything up. So we have those two screws that are in there, and then we'll worry about the top in a bit. So we're not really going to worry about the top for now. We're just going to go ahead and take care of these here. So we'll go ahead and mount the screws. Yes, it is a 2mm driver. Let's go ahead and place them. All right, so I'll get that one close. Then we'll go ahead and do the other one. All right, and that is it for the bottom. So now we can just go ahead and flip this over. Now, once we flip this over, we want the screws right over here, but before you put those screws in, you're gonna grab the dust cover, this cover right here. This will install up here. It's just gonna install right in there. And then, well, so again, this one has a brace, and then you can go ahead and install the brace. But if you install the brace, you're not going to be able to install this dust cover, and the reason why is because it blocks that screw right there. So again, just to make that, that's what you would do. But for now, we're going to move on to the motor. So the motor's right in here. The assumption is that you have already put those two screws there. So there's a little tab right in here, and that's where this goes. So you're going to just stick the gear inside and then make sure that is sitting on it properly, and that is it. So now you're going to grab the screw from the motor, and there's this little hole in there. That's where it goes, and there's a nut actually built inside. So here we go, and that is perfect. Now, something you can do, you have to adjust the mesh, but something you can do is just grab a piece of binder paper and just stick it between the teeth. Anyway, grab a piece of paper, just slide it between the teeth, and that'll mesh it in. I'm gonna get this close, but I'm not gonna tighten it fully. Don't really want this to sag, but I want to be able to move it in and out. So if you move it in and out freely, it makes it easier for, there we go, you to adjust it. Now you can do it by sound, just based on sound, and that works. Now to adjust the length on the motor, you just tie it in one place, look through it, see if it lines up. If you need to move it a little further, farther forward, farther back, then you can make that adjustment once it's in here. So adjusting this is not as easy as the two-wheel drive Slash. And I can tell it's not as easy because one of the things that I'm noticing here with my friends is his pinion needs to go forward. And I'm noticing it there's two ways I'm noticing this. One, the gear, I can see that the pinion is farther forward than the spur. So because it's farther forward, I need to move it farther back, which is away from the motor. So let me go ahead and remove this. The other reason too is there's a mark on the gears. So you can see where the gears, there's a wear mark. So I'm gonna go ahead and move this. I'm gonna move it. I'm not sure if you can see that wear mark. So that's the distance I have to go forward. So it's this little black line right in there, which isn't much, but still there. All right, so now we'll get full contact. Gear will have full contact. There it is. And that's the nut that I was talking about. So there's that little nut in there. So if at one point this screw starts backing out, it's probably because the nylon started wearing out. So you want to just remove that. So it just pops out and then you pop another one in. All right, and now the gear, I'm peeking in through here, so now I can see that it's lined up. I mean, you could also just put a driver in there and feel, but I can go ahead and see. So at this point, one of the easy ways is you bring it close, you try spinning it, see that's way too close, doesn't want to spin, so I'll spin the spur. And then that'll sort of push it out. All right, let's push it out just a tad more. All right, that's where I want it. So I'm just gonna hold it. And again, a piece of paper, fold it in half, binder paper, and then just stick it in there. And then just hold the motor. Do not hold it too tight, just hold the motor toward the gear, and that'll give you the mesh that you want. If your gears are, if they're too close together, they will just destroy each other. If they're too far apart, they will also destroy each other. So they have to be somewhere inside. There's usually going to be a little bit of play. You can probably hear it. So you should be able to hear that. If you don't hear that, there's a problem. If it sounds like there's too much play, you're gonna have a problem. If there isn't any, you're gonna have a problem. So long story short, your gears, if they're like this, they will destroy each other because they won't be able to break loose easily. If they're too far, there's not enough material here to hold them, they will destroy each other. So they have to be somewhere in the middle. Well, that's the way it should sound. All right, so now that we have that, we can install the dust cover. Dust cover is the easy part. this is the easy part. You just line up that hole toward the rear so this points back and it just slides in. Grab the screw. There we go. So now I can go ahead and install the brace. And once I install the brace, after that I'll be able to install the sway bar. Alright, so this one had these massive screws in the back. These were the 3mm. Well, a 3mm driver, not 3mm screws. These are much larger than 3mm. Maybe they are 3mm. No, they are 3mm screws. Just the hex happens to be 3mm as well. Alright, so I'm going to leave it like this so I can still sort of move this. I want to make sure that the front is in first. I need 2.5. And I'll get it close. Once all of them are there, then I'll tighten the brace completely. Just don't want the brace to be skewed and then it shifts the chassis one way or the other. Alright, so now I'm going to tighten the front, and then after I tighten the front, I'll go to the rear. I'll leave that there for now, I can hold it. Alright. Alright, so again, if you're not running a chassis brace on a Slash 4x4, I would recommend relocating the receiver box up here. But if you are running a brace, which you should because these things crack right around there, then you're going to have to keep your ESC down here. Alright, so now I can go ahead and install the sway bar. And again, do not over tighten the sway bar. And what I'm doing here is I'm just wiggling the sway bar to see if it moves freely. So I'll tighten and then I'll wiggle the sway bar. So loosen this one a little. All right, there. And that is it. So that's how you mate the rear end and the front end. Now all I have to do that I have not done is just install the bumper. Now usually your bumper would come off with this, so it'd be those screws that we removed off the top, those 2 screws, but this has an RPM front bumper, so it's just these 3 screws here. So after this, then we can just move on to buttoning up all the electronics. And that's the last screw for the bumper. Alright, and that is it. So now all we have to do is just do the electronics. We'll put the receiver box in and we'll do that on the next one. Thank you so much for watching.
What? Oh, my hair! My tongue! My rod!